with the Day of the Dead altar. So, there's been a lot of deaths been happening, and there's a lot going on in the world, and um, there's a lot of heartache, and I mean, there's just so many emotions and all that happening. And one thing about with like creating altars, it sort of brings people together, and it's sort of a personal thing, and it's like honoring and people that have passed, and it's sort of in a good way. It's a positive thing. Mexicans in general, um, they love their a lot of them love their families and honor them, and by having these altars, it kind of brings everybody together, to experience it. Um, Sometimes if you don't have much family, or you don't want to put your family there, you could put somebody that like a celebrity or a musician, or even a lot of like what's been happening, like with Black Life Matters, and all these people that have been killed and all that. If you want to commemorate them and honor them, that's fine. Or you could do a pet that has passed away, or grandparents, or it could be one person, or it could be many people. Well, to me, it could be many different things. But if you're doing like Day of the Dead, that's more like a food offering. It actually started historically being like a historically, it has its roots in the indigenous people, the Mayan culture in Mexico, but they had more like food altars. It became more like food altars combined with European religion and Catholicism and colonialism. So actually, it's meshing together the two together, and that's sort of like what Day of the Dead, at least in Mexico, has been, has become. So, but actually, um, it'd be more of like a Mexican folk tradition. The altars have kind of like to bring people together, and to kind of remember people and to honor them. You know how they have Halloween on October 30th? That's actually the European part of, the a holiday, and then November 1st and 2nd, that's the Day of the Dead. So it's November 1st and 2nd, so it's right after Halloween. That the European one is Halloween, and then the Mexican and indigenous ones are November 1st and 2nd. And on the 1st, it's usually for the children, it's called All Saints Day, and that's for the children that have passed. And sometimes now they add their animals too. Do a little setup for the animals as well. And on the 2nd, it's called All Souls Day, and that's for the uh, adults and uh, grandparents, parents, friends, like that. So it's actually 2 days, but they in Mexico they have sometimes they have the whole week. You know, they can't have just 1 or 2 days. They have to. And, but even before that, they sell like flowers. They have the sugar skulls. They have uh, other things that you could add on the altar. And then in some traditions, in some other states, they have, like in Oaxaca, they have, they use the cemetery. So wherever the stone is, and they're designed differently so that people sit around. It's almost like being in the park. They sit around and they eat, and then they sing songs and talk to the deceased. And so it makes it a little more personable and not so scary, and um, kind of makes it feel a little human, a little more human. I think Halloween and like Memorial Day or like going to cemetery, it's more sad and it more painful, but in the Mexican way, they make it a little more, you know, make it a little more human, I guess. I don't know, but I think for myself, I was like really terrified about all that. But then when I got into Day of the Dead, which um, my family didn't have Day of the Dead in that tradition. So, as an artist in the 1970s, this artist in San Francisco, his name Rene Yanez, who recently passed, they had a big thing for him in San Francisco, and he introduced Day of the Dead. So in United States. So and they had a procession and all that, and then we walked around. There was maybe like 20 people, and then year after year, they would have it, in the evening, and then it got to be where there was I don't know, 200 or 300 people. It just got so big. I didn't even go after that because it's too large. I liked it more personal and smaller. Because you could also put some of their items or something similar that reminds you of them on there. And so I have like boxes of, like, I used to make altars for my father, and he was a longshoreman, so I had his hook, and I asked, you ask different family members, oh, do you still have their gloves, or do you have a hat or something? I mean, you could put something small or something a little bigger. About the symbolism, okay, as you saw the altar, there's usually like 3 levels. And um, so I usually use boxes, um, some that are medium size to I've used also tables and larger pieces. But usually there's like 3 levels, and there's a cosmic level, there's the earth level below it, and then there's the underworld. Okay, so you don't always have to deal with the underworld if you don't want to, but that's just how they're set up. So you got the cosmic, the heavens, the earth level, and then the underworld. Sometimes I also add um, something on the bottom of the last level, and I put sometimes like sage or copal, and some other things, flowers, and um, so there's different things you could add on the bottom there. Also, there's 4 elements that are also important. So if you have 3 levels, and then you also have 4 elements. You have the water element, um, and you could use a cup of water or glass of water. And then you have the wind element, and that's the papel picado, or the paper cut out, and which represents the wind. As soon as I said that, the wind happened to the wind happened to blow right now. I said the wind, and I'm a wind element, so sometimes it plays with me and starts knocking things over. So I'm like, hey, come on, you're gonna work with me today. Give me a break. And then let me see, the earth element, that's like the food on the table. You could have like a plate or and with like say if somebody liked rice and beans, let's say, and tamales. I hear you make tamales, right? Somebody made some tamales
Yeah.
before. Okay, well, what I did since I couldn't um, use tamales, I got like this newspapers, you know, the corn husk. I just folded it like it was tamale, and then I glue gunned it closed, or glue gunned it so it looked like a tamale. So I put that on the plate, and then I got what else did I get? Rice and beans, and they weren't cooked, so I just put the raw rice and the raw beans, and so that took care of that. Sometimes I get hungry and it seems like things move around, so that's not trying to scare you, but things are, especially if you have it up for a long time, like a month or something. Yes, whatever they like to eat and drink. And for my father, he liked tequila, so I used to have a bottle there, not full but empty. And he was like, "Hey, wait, no." Or sometimes I put water in, like color water that looked like it, and then it seemed like it got lower and lower. But I think, well, never mind. I'm not gonna go there. And then, oh, the last element is fire. So we usually use candles, and if you have a candle holder, you could put the candles. I have two little corn ones that I used, and then also is the flowers. Oh, for the earth, because it's an earth plane, you want to have the flowers too. They call it cempasúchil. That's in a Nahuatl. That's like an Aztec Mexica indigenous language in Mexico, and I have to practice it because I forget. I sort of taught myself years ago, but it's kind of you know. So usually they use marigolds. So when they do altars here, you have to order them real early because people start grabbing them. So also there's colors that uh, are representative of some different thing. Something that you could put on the altar, but you don't have to. You could just sometimes you could just uh, sometimes I just close my eyes and just kind of meditate, and then just I start gathering things like that. I don't always just say, okay, so, grabbing things like that. But I just kind of sit and kind of meditate on it and kind of think about the person or people, and then I start getting things like that. And I say, what do you want? And they'll say, oh, I want this. It's almost like I could hear them. I want this and that, and don't forget that. And it's funny how that works. But okay, some colors are like purple is royalty, red it says blood, orange is the sun, and yellow is miracles. So those are just some of the colors. Okay, these are just some of my art that I just kind of show you some. Okay, so the first one, with the one on the left is me with a hat, and I'm working on this wooden piece with the man and woman. The woman is wearing a mask, a skeleton mask, and she's a human. And the man, he has a human mask on, but he's actually a skeleton. So, so this one's called Dancing on the Edge, and I did this piece for a friend of mine. So it's actually a cutout. The whole thing's cut out, and then I did it like it was on the disco dance floor, and there was the disco light on top. So I did this for a friend of mine that passed that loved dancing and liked to go nightclubbing and all that, and loved wearing red dresses and stuff like that. So I did that for her. And why do we use the calaveras?
Yeah, can you
Oh,
just tell
why?
yeah how the calavera shows up in altars a lot and like La Catrina
Mm,
like that.
yeah, well, it's death. it just makes it more humorous. They try to make it more humorous. They also do like the sugar skulls, and then um, let's see, the sugar skulls, and then, well, it's just like, life and death, right? And but it makes it, sometimes they make them more humorous. They put smiles on them, and like the sugar skulls, they have like a little piece on the front, and it usually has a name on it, a person's name. So it's kind of like a little shocker in a way. And because sometimes a living person has the same name, right? So that it's this little humor thing going on.
With
Yeah, I think for the indigenous people, see, these three are paper mache skulls, and they're large ones. So actually, when I first got into Day of the Dead at a gallery, I tell you the guy that started bringing out Day of the Dead in the community. Um, he let everybody show some work in there, a piece, and so 3 4 years, 5 years, I worked on these big skulls like that. And but each one has a meaning. Uh, the first one I did was red, and I had long hair, and I cut my hair, right, cut it short, little shorter than what it is, and I call it death of my trenzas, death of my braids. It was like I I had my hair long, so long that when I finally cut it, it just hurt me, almost hurt me. And so that's why I call it death of my braids. I was trying to make it a little humorous, trying to help me out a little bit. And so, and then also on the teeth, I had scissors and the braids and all. So I put a little humor, and plus was a little sad. The red one, see the center? You can't see it, but below the on the bottom teeth, it has the my braids, and then it has scissors on there, and it has a tear on there. It's like a skeleton with a long braid, and it has a tear. And then the other one was Death of the Red Hot Chilies, the yellow one. See the yellow one on the right? And it was say, okay, I'm not going to eat really hot chili anymore. So that's it for that. So I kind of put a little humor in it, and that's how Mexicans think. Like that. They try to put humor in it a little bit because it's such a sad, painful thing sometimes. And then the other one, uh, it was just called, what was it called? Uh, it was actually the last one of those because I did like five, I think, and that was like number five. I don't know of the roses. I can't even remember, but they were like really huge, really big, maybe like 2 feet high. And then that's a painting, and you see half and half a woman's face, and then the other side's a death. So it's almost like we walk. They say, how's it go? We walk on the line or something like that. Life is like walking on the line of life and death or something like that. I don't know. Because it's so, life is so fragile. You just kind of walk on the line of that. And then so she has like a candle on one side, and she has her arm over her head, and she's wearing gloves. I don't know. There's something about gloves and a hat, I guess. This next one was a design for a altar. I did a big altar, another big altar, but not as big as the other one. So those are like the different parts. Like there's like the tree of life, and it has candles on top, and then so that whole piece was a backdrop, and let's see, you could see the several levels there. There's three levels, but one was kind of long and low. Okay, so you could put different things on there. Another thing is like if you want to do the last level, like something more, um, like they say, the underworld or something, you want to put something political or something that happened that was terrible or like a bad accident or something, but of the person, you might want to add some images or little, uh, what would you say, symbolically put things on there on the side about that. Um, so you're not putting everything, but just a little bit, So if somebody says, "Well, what's that about?" Then you'll be able to explain that, you know, tell them the story about that person or those people. Okay, another woman. I don't know why I just keep putting a half face, half person. But when you really look at it, people always say, "Why you put death?" Why half and half? When you think about it, underneath our skin, it looks like the skeleton, right? Under our skin is we have the whole skeletal body, and underneath of all our the muscles and the skin and all that under all of us is our skeleton body you know it's kind of amazing how we could stand up when you think about it. How it moves because it's so light. Our skeleton is body is kind of light too. But that was sort of that one was kind of thinking about, I guess, Frida Kahlo, because she had a painful life, and she only lived until like 45, and she was a Mexican painter in from Mexico, and